and welcome to the Junkyard Love Podcast.
At what age do we learn how to have better conversations? At what age do we learn to have better conversations with ourselves?
Knowledge is power.
Reality is...
Just get 2 hours later and be like, oh, so...
Man, I've done it. I've deleted podcast episodes, multiple episodes. I've deleted entirely. I've forgot to hit record like till I was 20 minutes or so in, more than once. I've fudged it.
Some of my best ones, or I guess some of the better ones, yeah, they have had like either like major technical issues, like someone drops out halfway through and you don't know until editing, or they just vanish. Like, you ever had the file just vanish? You're like, where did it go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a ton. Frustrated. Like, I feel like my computer sometimes deletes things without my permission. It happens with tracks all the time too. Yeah, or I will.
Oh, that sucks.
I like to record my audio separate in my DAW. I use Ableton, so I record it in there just so I can edit it later and make it sound fancy. And I had a ton of them that just like all of the files that I recorded got deleted. I mean, I had the Zoom backup, so I was able to use it, but I still really don't know what I did to delete a ton of my own recordings from podcasts.
Oh man, dude, I have Ableton Live and I have never opened it.
It's daunting, dude.
It is so intimidating.
It's a staircase.
Just looking at it, I'm like, I don't even want to open. I'm just going to leave you. You look pretty on the desktop. That's about it.
Yeah, and you could tell people you have it. Like,
yeah, I got Ableton Live. No big deal.
Man, so it's actually my main weapon. I still suck at it, I think. I've been using it. It's been my main thing for a long time. But luckily, I had the ignorance is bliss. I didn't realize that it was like super difficult to start on. It was just one that I had heard of when I first started thinking music is cool to try to make. And I was like, all right, well, that's the one. And I had a friend help me out and crack it. And just started cracking on it. And just because I've been forced to use it and using it so much, I kind of know my way around it. But yeah, it's I don't know that I could teach anybody how to use it.
Yeah, you have. Well, that's really cool. That's gonna, and I mean, the tracks you sent me like that have that specific style. That's like almost like this beat poetry, like train tracky beat poetry vibe with like just generally has like this calm meditative trill to it. I feel like that's the best way, man, because like I've taught myself guitar. And like I specifically was very much a hard ass about never learning any covers or any other songs or whatever. Like, and so, but what that does is when you get into it and you're just dick deep in the mystery of music, you develop your own style. And though it takes a very, very, very long time, longer than, being classically trained and learning theory and scales and everything, you still get to envelop your own truth through the music, and through that time, and that you put in that hard work. And so it is quite a journey. And that's impressive, man, to teach yourself Ableton. Like, that is no small feat, you put that on your gravestone.
Yeah, bro. YouTube is my BFF, Jill, for sure. Like, I spent a lot of time on YouTube and just trying shit. And again, like, I feel like I if I had somebody who was really good at Ableton over my shoulder, I'd be like, yeah, I kind of know Ableton. I feel like I wouldn't be very sturdy. Like, I wouldn't say it with my chest, like, yeah, I know Ableton, just because there's so many layers. Like, dude, the people who are good at that program are good at that program. Really, all of these programs are, like, there's levels to it. I can work my way around it, and I can make some shit sound, like, cool, and I can figure out how to get your mic or get your vocals over some tracks and stuff, but there's levels to it, bro. Hey, also, I was thinking about when you were just saying, like, going through the route of learning music, in the non-traditional way, not only like not reading music, but like kind of just teaching and like falling into it, and just like the hours of listening to yourself sound so bad, like trying to find occasionally sound good. Like was that a process for you of like getting through the frustrating part of, I know there's something good in here, so just keep fiddling around? And
Yeah, I mean, you know me. I mean, so for people that don't know, we've known each other for a very long time, since the high school days.
yeah.
And I've always been kind of just like a little bit of a fringe weirdo on the social groups and things. You know, I'm like, I kind of fit in here, kind of fit in there, but it's always just been a little weird. So I liked weird things, and so to me, though they might have sounded cool when I would play for other people, it would just kind of like the timing and the rhythm wasn't something that was like what you would consider to be catchy.
Yeah, it's not your four on the floor that everybody's used to.
Exactly. And like, you know, for me being such a hard ass and growing up really loving punk music and wanting just to be different, like I've always really, you know, and we all strive for that uniqueness or that difference. But you know, when I was growing up, I was just like, you know, like sometimes it was on the forefront of my mind, like I need to be a crazy son of a bitch. I need to be crazy. I need to be wild. Like I feel like I need to be wild. And so, you know, but as you get older, it's just like, you know, that little bit of that youthful spirit, you know, it lingers in the back, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I should follow it. And it's like weird. You do feel the youth and the growing up, like kind of getting farther apart. So I'm trying to hold on to that with like all of my might.
Yeah, isn't it such an art to hold on to it and like try to decide how much, like, do I keep a little Peter Pan in me? Do I, yes, I'll tighten my, you know, shirt and tie, but I'm going to throw my denim jacket over it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Cause you certainly have had that, like, you know, punk rock vibe to you, like edge of everything. I feel like you were certainly, so I saw you as someone who was like friends with absolutely everybody. Like you were just, everybody got along with you. Everybody had something nice to say about you. I feel like you were such a chameleon in that way.
Definitely chameleon-y. And like the truth about it all at the end of the day is that like I'm a big loner because I'm a Scorpio, and like I didn't really fully embrace my Scorpio archetype. Scorpios for days. But we really enjoy our alone time and being underneath our rock and our shade and low lighting. We like low lighting. We like ambient lighting. We like vibes. We like chill. And so, you know, it's funny because like generally, you know, we don't notice these archetypes unless you're like, you know, completely raised by some mystic hippie voodoo parents. But you know, like you'll notice that when you look back at your youth, you're like, oh my god, I was fulfilling these archetypes that like I've always had, because your celestial chart has always been a part of you. And as you go through the process, so like if you start to understand astrology now and then look back at what you were doing in your youth, you find that you were fulfilling those archetypal roles like even as a youth. So I definitely got along with everybody. I like, you know, I never really gotten a lot of confrontations. Like the most of confrontations were like, you know, some of the assholes I clung myself to, like one of my best friends, Rashad, you know, he was always getting in confrontations. I was like, so I guess I'm getting in confrontations with this guy as well.
Yeah, dude, that's our path sometimes. That's how it is. I mean, I love all of my friendships that I had in that way, where it's like at that time that was exactly like what I needed, and I love that person to death. But it's so interesting and fun and cool to like see yourself now and go like, oh, I was like working out this thing that like, of course I was working out, you know, of course I was going through that process. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, dude, it's not easy.
So have you been, I mean, you just started to mention astrology and stuff. Like we haven't even for anybody listening, we haven't really got a chance to catch up that much, man. Like we haven't hung out since high school. We graduated in 2010. So, I mean, it's been a grip. So, Bro, can you, like, this is the most impossible thing, but can you give me like what have you been up to for the last, you know, decade or whatever?
13 years.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah,
And
man.
like we have time too, so like dive into like what are you into nowadays? What do you love doing? Like all of it. Give me it all.
Oh my goodness. So, Jake and I have rekindled because we both have podcasts now. And so, you know, that was a really great way for us to just be like, hey, you want to hang out like
Yeah.
on the internet?
It's what millennials do now. Grown man millennials do this kind of shit.
Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, dude, it's been a slow process, man. It's been a slow process. I, I originally like out of high school, like I wanted to go to Le Cordon Bleu and be a chef. Like that's what I signed up for my senior year of high school. Food has always been a passion of mine. I even have chef tattooed on my hands. Food is an art, flavor and community of like feeding people has always rung true. Like I love it. I love the aspect of people getting together, of friend meals. Like I cook for everybody all the time. I go home, it's not grandma cooking holiday meals, it's your boy, you know? But the thing is actually I met a girl, so I'll give people a little bit of more insight. So came to Kelso High School, right? Like switched senior year from this other school in our town to go to this other bigger school because me and my friend were fed up with like the bull the bull hunkery over at this other school. So we're like, let's go transfer to Kelso where the people are cooler and like, you know, see what's up. And I found myself actually dating this incredibly beautiful woman. I was incredibly out of my league. And you know, she was really popular in all these things. And this was Raquel Flowers, who is just, I love her to death, but man, you know, she is wild, bro. And then I fell in love with somebody who you would almost consider at the complete polar opposite end with this, her name is Rebecca. And she was one of the most emo girls in the entire school, right? Like she got caught like, you know, slitting her wrist in the bathroom, like hanging out with a prominently really hardcore gay dude. Like she was, you know, so going from this, you know, from this realm to this realm where we were just completely enveloped in emotion, that's where I found myself being able to feel more truly who I was, because I'm an, you know, like Scorpios, we're deep emotion. Like we want to get to the real grit. And I'm not talking like happy, sad. I'm talking like dark blood, like, you know, in a cavern on the ground in the forest, like just the true heartbeat of life, the shadow side of life. And, so we fell in deep love and we dated for about 3.5 years. And she, was going up to, Western Washington University. And I was like, well, I already have applied and signed up and got all my grants worked out for chef school, but I guess I'm just going to throw all that in the wind and go with you up to here. And then I started to dive incredibly deep into psychedelics and started having, that's where I had my first out of body experience. And this out of body experience was, I was walking on the street in Bellingham, Washington. It was winter time, you know, half an hour away from the Canadian border, incredibly cold. And I had my spirit, I had to lay down like on the ground. I just remember like looking up and I had my spirit leave and go out to what you would consider to be the atmosphere. It was the outside of the atmosphere. And I was just like a blue energy. I was like a blue light, and I was just nestled up.
What psychedelic was this?
This was, you know what? This was like actually a culmination of a couple things.
Okay. It is Bellingham. I get you. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a wild town, and I have stories about that town all day. And it was actually an amalgamation of, you know, acid, LSD, but really it's like, do we even know if it's that, you know?
Yeah. And you know, it's not, it's like the substance doesn't contain the experience, you know, it's, you know what I mean?
I like how you just animated that as well. That was beautiful.
Yeah. Clip that, Jamie. I'm sorry, carry on. Yes. Okay. So you're above your body. This is fascinating. I love this. I love like any sort of out of body near death experience.
Oh man. And it really, it took me a while to digest this too, because I don't even think when I came back into it, I don't even think I remembered it for like months. But so basically what it was like me going and being there, and I wasn't in my body. I was the light and the blue. I was the blue body, just like everyone else around me was. And when I went up there, I just remember like touching proverbial blue energetic elbows with each other. And it was just like, whoa, like, where are we? You're down there. And I was like, whoa. And it lasted 2 seconds. And then I went straight back in, and then here it was. And so it was just like, you know, after leaving home and then just being bombarded with these mind opening, mind altering experiences, while also being in an incredibly codependent relationship, was like learning so much about relationships in general. Like, and I think that's been a huge part for me, like, you know, because I've always been in like these like really deep relationships, but I'm an introspective kind of guy where I'll, like, you know, I'm not afraid to ask, you know, the hard questions, and to be like, is this right? Like, should I be in this? Like, am I going to force myself to be in this relationship, even though I know deep down that I don't want to be, or like it's halting me in some way, like it's halting my progression. And so I had to leave. And shortly after leaving there, after dropping out of school, which I only like mildly regret at this point.
How old are you about at this age by now?
I had left. I'm in between 19 and 20.
Gotcha.
I think 20. And then I moved down to Portland, where I started this, wanted to be like stand-up comedy. So I did some stand-up. I started writing jokes. I started getting into some short films. I had about 3 short films that I had done, and I was about to get my Screen Actors Guild, and I got this role. It was a paid gig. It was a good gig, and I was so excited that I went onto Facebook and I nailed the audition. I got the call back. I got the gig, right? I get on Facebook. I'm just like, oh, what up, everybody? I'm so excited. I got this, you know, I got my first paid role, whatever. And the director was actually on Facebook, and she sees it and she's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're pre-production. You're not supposed to say anything. Because it was about a short story, and I like shared the short story that the film was going to be about.
Oh,
and
shit.
she blew up on me, and she was just
no.
like, she's like, you'll never work in this town again. And I was like, what?
Damn, I was excited.
I'm like, I'm just excited. I'm a young kid, dude. Like, I don't know. I didn't know you can't say anything about movies or whatever. It wasn't even a movie. It was a very, you know, it was a $2,000 paid gig, whatever. And so after that, like, I just, you know, I was living in my friend's living room, right? I was literally living. I was like doing like, I'm already here, so I'm just going to say it. I was doing like webcam stuff, like getting naked in front of the webcam in my friend's living room when he would go to work.
Oh, this was like pre-OnlyFans too. This was like,
Oh, yeah.
You're like the original OnlyFans hipster. Like, you were doing it before everyone was getting paid like big bucks on it.
It was some creepy sights, man. It would be like, you'd just be there naked doing this, and then people would just like, they'd go to your thing, they'd tip you, or they'd just keep going. And so I even tried to branch out on that. I made a couple Craigslist posts back when Craigslist used to have like the sexy section.
Yeah.
And I was like, looking for a woman to make love on the webcam so we can make money.
Hey, hey man, got to pay the rent somehow.
Those were treacherous experiences, going to meet the people that responded to me on Craigslist. And so what happened is I needed a serious shift, because I was doing incredibly dark comedy where I was like using really, really vile language to try to break open this void of like, people need to not be so clung to language, to words, to being so hurt or triggered by words. That was like the point of my comedy, was trying to trigger people to hopefully access something in them that would allow them to be less triggered. Because words, so like, you know, later, in the deep later, as of now, you know, I understand that the modern English language that we have now is actually a magical labyrinth that has been created and curated through thousands of years of magical workings. So but I didn't know that when I was young. I just knew that there was a bunch of bullshit going on. I was trying to break the void.
Yeah.
So I was at my
you're
wits'
punk
end.
rock at your core. You had to throw some rocks at that, you know. I got you, man.
This fucking window. And so I was at a proverbial bottom to me. And you know, like I didn't like trying to sell my body and do all these things. So I had called my mom and I was just talking to her, and she's just like, well, why don't you just go move to Hawaii? Like, you know, like, don't you know that we have a friend out there who has a farm? You can go work and live on his farm. I was like, no, mother, I did not know that we have somebody that I know I could go work on. You never mentioned this 20 years later. And so it was, I think, a week and a half after that phone call where I just decided to move out to the island. And that's really when I think everything really shifted for me, because, you know, I went there and I didn't leave for 3 years after that point. Like I was there and I was stuck like a magnet on a fridge, because the magnetized energy that is there, the magmatic, the volcanic energy. Let's just put it this way. Oh, we were talking about it on the Von Gald episode, right? With dolphins and whales, and they have magnetite clusters in their head, as do humans. We are attracted to the magnetic parts of the earth. And Texas, by the way, is incredibly magnetic. Hollow caverns, salt mines, crystal mines, limestone. I found out that Austin, Texas was a huge limestone quarry. And limestone is what they would use to build the fucking pyramids out of. One of the main materials. So like the heavy magnetic draw that it has, like it's a very conductive material used as a geopolymer. So we're drawn and attracted to these places.
Yeah, Tyler Daniels. I don't know if you ever met Tyler Daniels. He graduated with us as well. He's down here with me as well. He's got his own place and everything, but he's become very into pyramids and like researching that. He's like read all of Graham Hancock's books and stuff. Over the last couple of years.
Dude, have you watched the new Netflix?
I have not watched it yet, man. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. It's on my list to watch, but I do love Graham Hancock, and I follow some of his stuff. I have not read his books, but I always really enjoy when he's on podcasts and stuff.
Dude, I have yet to watch the documentary either, and I really, really, really want to.
Yeah.
Need to, because I heard it's great, and when it gets that much controversial feedback, you know it's good.
Yeah, it's funny what's going on. It's hard because I'm not sure what. I think that my view of it through social media is being painted a certain way, so I'm not really sure what the truth is. So it's hard for me to truly discern what's going on. But it seems like they're doing this whole saying that what Graham has to say is false, or it's like pseudoscience, because they don't want to change like the mainstream quote unquote narrative. And so they're trying to like get it recategorized. But again, I don't know. Like literally saying mainstream narrative already paints me into this world of like, I don't really know entirely what I'm talking about. So.
I fucking love that. Dude, you're incredibly truthful, and I love that about you, brother.
I haven't always been, man. That's something that I very much pride myself on, trying my best to be truthful. It's like the only way to live for me. I have to be 100% truthful now. I don't have another option.
You got to break the patterns. That's growing up. That is maturing, you know, and one of the hardest things to do is to, one, notice the pattern, and the two, to break the pattern.
Yeah. Notice it and not turn away, I think is a huge thing. I think you can make a habit of noticing it and reacting in a different way, or you know, creating. I mean, that's a lot of how the ego builds its armor, right? You know, it puts up another wall. Noticing it and like, okay, what do I do when I notice that thing? Instead of being truthful with it, I put up this guard. You know, so okay, I'm sorry, I derailed you with this Graham Hancock pyramid limestone. Okay, so you're in Hawaii, Roman. You're in Hawaii now. You're magnetized to this place.
And all my dreams came true. I mean, Hawaii to me was more than dreamy beaches, or you know, a vacation. it like, even going into it, I didn't think I was going to go have a vacation. Like, I knew I was going to go work. I really wanted to work. I love work. Working makes me happy. Um, and farming makes me happy. You know, when I switched my focus in school from culinary, well, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to regular college. What am I going to do? I wanted to get into sustainability and agriculture, and sustainable agriculture, and all these things. So me going to go work on a farm was a dream in general, and so on and so forth. The place was like, I was like, great, like Hawaii, that's awesome. But the deep penetrating uh energy that's there is undeniable. Like, just having had lived there off and on for about a decade now, really has shown me there's something deeper going on there spiritually, that a lot of people like, because one, it's like there's so many beautiful, magnificent islands for people to go vacation and visit to, but Hawaii is one of the number one world touristy places, like for Germans, for French, for Japanese, for Chinese, for Americans. Everybody in the world goes to Hawaii. That's because it's one of the 7 chakra points of the planet, so people are heavily attracted to it there. And it's almost like you have to go to it and through it at some point in your life, that energy vortex that lives there, to have the fully optimized experience. So I think people will go there for a vacation and not knowing that they're actually having a deeper spiritual lesson at that same time. And people will try to move there for reasons that they don't know why. They just felt a calling to go move there, and they get there, they have crazy experiences, and what we call getting chewed up and spit out. Then there's people who go there and they never leave because they've been ingested by Pele. And so, there's these major workings, these spiritual workings that are happening. And for me, I didn't really notice it until I had left the island for the first time in the 3-year period and came back to the States, moved back to Portland with a woman, started doing that whole thing again. That's when I was able to look back and be like, oh my God, like I've completely shifted everything in my being. And I don't even think I did it to me. I think it would happen to me. I didn't do any of this. Like, I changed, I'm different, and I don't know what I did to do that. I think I was just inhabited by the geographic location. It's just crazy. It's mind blowing, man.
Okay, so far, I feel like the couple instances that you've mentioned, does there feel like they're like versions of you? Like there's a Roman before this time, like this time in Bellingham when you had this like out of body experience, you had this like deep, profound love for this person, and it's like a cycle of like, wow, holy crap, I didn't know I could ever look at this whole experience like the way I did. I'm now a new person. I've just cocooned into a new butterfly. And then like, a couple years later, you end up in Hawaii, you have this new experience, you come back to Portland and you look back and you're like, oh my God, I had another like cocooning of a butterfly. Is that what's going on? Is that kind of what you're saying? Is that...
I think there's so many layers to us that we will never unveil all the layers. Like, I think after you get to this other layer, there's another layer there that you need to start working on. I don't know if there's ever a point in this journey, in this life, and I think this is what like major magical beings like in history, like King Solomon or these different alchemists who are chasing the alchemical philosopher's stone, that eternal life here. I don't think there's ever a point of full transcendence on this physical plane. I think anytime you're going to be here, you're working on a layer and you're shedding it. And I think you can get through all the layers until you hit that really, really thin point. But I think even when you bust through that final layer, you dissipate as a physical being. And then you enter the spiritual realm, you enter the energetic realm, you enter and cross the dimension. And, I think that's what a lot of like these like metaphorical and and allegory, no, allegorical
Allegorical.
stories. Allegorical philosophical stories are talking about when they talk about transcendence. Uh, you know, it's just, yeah, I think there's many, many, many layers to us, but I don't think we're ever going to be not peeling back the layers.
Right.
If you're being truthful with yourself. Maybe,
Yeah, sure.
potentially.
Yeah, you might accidentally be adding more layers, which they'll come off eventually. You know, it's all your choice, but it's your game. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I mean I don't mean to impose that like on your whole story so far, but so far that seems like what it is to me is like it seems like you've been on this path of kind of like. Does it feel like you've been on a path of self-discovery? Because I feel like that seems maybe normal for people like you and I to say, but a lot of people wouldn't look back at like their 20s and say, oh yeah, I was on a path of self-discovery, or like, you know, finding finding out about myself, or figuring out about, you know, my place in the universe. I'm not sure that everybody goes through the same journey. More and more are nowadays though.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I kind of weave in and out a lot of this concept of like simulation theory, and you know, because a lot of it makes sense, but some of it makes a little too much sense to where it's like, you know, it seems a little like a cop out to kind of say everything's a simulation. And then that would really mean that some people are NPCs, and to me that just doesn't feel okay. You know, like just because somebody isn't going through as much of an awakening process of you doesn't mean you get to consider them a non-participating character. You know, I think that there's just maybe these people that, you know, are considered NPCs. They haven't, you know, they're stuck in maybe a level of like, you know, where they just, who fucking knows, man? It's very, very, very difficult waters to tread. And so we can't really talk about other people. We can talk about ourselves, you know? I don't feel comfortable to call anybody an NPC. I think that's rude, and I don't think it's right.
Well, look, brother, I think you said it just right. You said, you know, we're all on these different levels, and I think that's the way to see it. I actually have thought a lot about this NPC talk lately, because I think like the younger generations, it's like the most normal. Like it's really part of their vocabulary nowadays. Like this, you know, I love this like first person character energy. Like, have you heard all this sort of stuff? I think there is some powerful stuff in that, but I think we should tread carefully. And the reason I say that, you just said levels. There's like levels to it. I feel like when I listen to a lot of like, you know, people who would like meditation teachers or like yoga teachers, or people who have had near-death experiences, or people who are on some sort of spiritual path, or, you know, maybe other people consider their teachings to be a level of enlightened. You know, if you look at enlightenment, the human path of enlightenment as, you know, 100-story building, and there's just levels. And I think that every person is on a certain level, and like, you know, some people might think that they're like up in the 60s, but they're really like, we're all just probably under 13 or so, you know? But I think the thing to remember is, I think thinking about karma and like past lives and this sort of thing helps me remember that maybe this person that I'm talking to, maybe my Uber driver is someone I can consider, you know, an NPC. Maybe they're like really low level interaction with the things that I like. I believe that I'm really interacting deeply with these same exact subjects, and I know the real truth of them. And like, as they're talking, you have all these things of like, oh, if only they knew what I knew, and they're just repeating these things that they have no idea. Bro, maybe they're just on like the third level of that story of all of our journey to enlightenment to get to the level 100. It's just part of being a human, whether you choose to admit it or participate in it or not in this lifetime. You're always on that path of the elevator going up, you know, on these floors. And some people are just on lower levels than you. And, you know, maybe in 25 million years, when they're on like the same level you're on now, so far as you think, and, you know, they're on level 11, they can look down and be like, oh, okay, these people that are NPCs, I'm not better than them. I'm not different than them. I haven't like gained anything more. They're just at an earlier stage of development of me in the karmic cycle of being consciousness, you know, of existing.
And I love it when, you know, you have an experience with somebody who you would never think that it would happen. Like you, like in the Lyft car and the Uber car, and like you start to talk to them just to like kind of like shoot the shit and just to kind of like poke and prod to see where see where they're at, and depending on your energy for the day, how playful you're going to be. But then you end up just having this mind-blowing, like beautiful, conscious conversation with this complete stranger, almost like it was like meant to be. And just breaks the mold of like everybody playing their part in the system. Because here's a good way, one of the great ways somebody explained it on his name is Michael Wan, Susquehanna Alchemy, Susquehanna River. He's on YouTube. He does a lot of great stuff, and he's very, very energetic too. So I love listening to him. But he described something that really stuck out to me, and it was kind of breaking the mold of simulation. So we live in a simulation, in a societal simulation. Now there's a societal simulation, which is society, which has been created. You have the cornerstone of society. You have rules, you have foundation, you have money, you have all these rules and parameters that make the simulated version of reality, which is society. But then you have the cosmic simulation, a cosmic code, algorithms that fit in on a mineral level, on a gas level, on a bigger atmospheric universal level. And so it's almost like we individually are on these different levels of the building, levels of where we're at. But at the same time, society also, since we've created it to be its own living being, goes through its levels. And then the planet itself is also working through these different levels. And so it's fractal. It's fractal. It's just, we're all like, tendrilizing out, dude. It's nuts. It's insane.
In all the little fractals are like, I'm the one. I'm it. All the little hair follicles are saying, I am everything. It's all of it. It's me. It's me. And it's just completely exploding and moving in infinite directions and infinite speed forever. And we're like, no, it's me. Hey, do you have? So you're talking in this way did you have what you would consider, through these experiences, it sounds like an accumulation of these sorts of things, but would you ever have any sort of, like, this was my spiritual awakening? Like, there's for sure Roman this day and Roman, like, afterwards, like, where you kind of discovered, because even, like, going back just a few minutes, you're talking about, like, the societal structures of who we are and, like, the ego self and, like, I'm this person with this job, like even that level of like that initial speed bump of like waking up to the societal structures of like who you think yourself to be. That is like, that's years worth of like working through your shit for a lot of people. I feel like it was for me. I feel like that alone was a profound awakening moment. Did you have any sort of like discovering that?
I've been lucky, dude. I've been lucky because I was blessed with seeing the trying to find the right vocab for this. When I was a kid, I knew the system was broken. I knew the system was broken when I was a child, and I knew it, and it kind of hit me in a weird way. I remember going to Robert Gray Elementary School in Longview, Washington, and I was just sitting there, and like I have this kind of memory still. It's kind of funny. It was right before the Cookie Brigade, and the Cookie Brigade was a fucking tyrant when I was a kid, and I was lashing out for a lot of reasons that I didn't quite know why, but I think a lot of it is because I knew that there was just something unjust about the system, and I knew it was broken. So the Cookie Brigade in 6th grade they stopped serving cookies to us in lunchtime. Not okay. So we banded together, a band of 6th graders, and we said, what are we going to do about this, boys? What are we going to do about this lack of cookies? Otis Spunkmeyer chocolate chip sunken in the middle, perfectly cooked. There's no way they're taking that away from us.
Down with the man. Yeah.
And we literally got 100 6th graders to say, we want cookies, we want, and we trolled through the school, and there was this lady that she wore like the yellow vest, I can't remember her name, unfortunately, bless her soul. we trampled over her.
Oh my God, bro.
She was like,
Didn't
stop,
see that coming.
stop right there. And we're just like, no. And we just keep walking. And she like literally got like fell on the ground in the middle of 106th graders. And, of course, me and
She
two
got
other kids.
Astro Worlded. I'm sorry. Jesus, that was a dark one. You're just a comedian, so I figured you'd appreciate it. Anyway, carry on.
No, the dark is the real. The dark is the light, man. It's so, anyways, but yeah, dude, I don't know if I would, I don't know if there was a point when I ever told myself I was having a spiritual awakening. Um, I, because life itself is the spiritual awakening. And at some point you just fucking realize it. I do remember there was a time when I was having very profound spiritual experiences, that I had like a spiritual ego at one point, with this woman that I was dating, because she kind of rubbed her energy off on me. You know, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you kind of just, your tendrils lock up together and you start to become intertwined.
The beauty of it.
It is the beauty. And it's also
not all the beauty, but some of the beauty.
You need to be weary of how much of other people's energies are on you and in you. And there's practices and work that you can do to make sure that's not happening. I have a clairvoyant that I work with. And if you guys listen to Rising from the Ashes in the intro, I always will shout out her. It's Sabaya Sogard, and she helps me go through a lot of things. Like, she is trained to kind of tap into your energy and be like, oh, this is not yours. Let's get rid of that. Let's pull that out of there. And it took me a while to really settle in and be like, this is actually happening. And whether or not it's really truly happening energetically, or she's taking care of that in my mental process, it still feels really good to have that work done. And so it kind of got lost on the question there. But dude, I don't know if I would ever consider myself having said like, oh, I'm going through it right now. But I kind of woke up a couple years after the fact. I think I was like kind of autopiloting, going through that transition. And I really do think that Hawaii itself, the energy, we use these words like energy, vortex, things like that. When there's something, it's an umbrella term for something so much larger that really is hard to explain with a word, because it's a sound, it's a vibration, it's a shift, it's something bigger and deeper, man. So it's hard to explain, really.
The Tao that cannot be named is not the eternal Tao.
Yes.
I do find I've found that a lot in this world, as I've like dove into, the more spiritual side of things. Like, all of these words are just completely like cocked way back. Like, so many people if you talk to me 5 years ago and you're trying to use, well, maybe not 5 years, maybe like when I was just like a teenager or early 20s, you use words like energy and spiritual, like, I mean, energy, I guess, like being in the music world, like I would understand what you're talking about, but I would really put boundaries up if you start saying words like spiritual and stuff. But there's definitely like so much that we're trying to clearly explain that's right on the edge of our words, that we're like, like the feeling and the energy and the like, we're just so, but the great thing is communication is beyond words. Like as you're explaining it to me, even through Zoom, even through this camera and shit, I'm saying, I understand. Yes, Roman, I get it. So it's we're able to say it still, right? But it is frustrating. Like, you almost wish that we could come up with like a update or a software update to our language of like, everything about our language is great, but like, can we just like, let's, like when we get emojis, we get new emojis. Like, sometimes we get 100 of them. Like, let's just get a bunch more words, like once every year. Let's just update our language so we can at least a little bit know what we're talking about and communicate a little more clearly. But yeah,
that sounds matrixy too. Like, you just go into your pod, this is like the next day you wake up, just 100 more vocab words. You're like,
oh, well, I mean, Neuralink, I'm not sure if you follow any of that with Elon Musk, but Neuralink is going into human brains in 6 months.
Like like on the market, or
I don't think in the market.
they're doing
I
their
think
testings?
I think legal human trials is 6 months. I mean, I imagine, bro, they've probably already done plenty of testing on
Yeah.
humans and monkeys and stuff.
Mhm.
Somebody told me they've already killed a bunch of monkeys, but I haven't looked into it. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I've been looking into Neuralink for quite some time. I've had qualms with Elon Musk for a bit. Uh, not in the sense that like what he's doing, but I actually, because I'm a history nerd, I fucking love history.
Mm.
And so I looked into Elon Musk's family. I said, well, let's see what's going on deeper here. And I'll give you a little little background on the Musk family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting. And what a lot of people need to understand is that it's not that he doesn't work hard and do all these things, but he comes from money, and he has had money, a lot of money, big family money that most of us would never understand this type of money. So his grandfather was a very well-known chiropractor in Canada in the late 19th century. And chiropractors were actually like held at high regard as healers in the community, and it was a really good job to have. If you went to school for chiropractor, you're only working on like people who could afford such practices, and you're doing a good job. You're an MD, And so, but his grandfather actually started to get involved in the technocratic movement, and the technocracy regime was a part of this, like half of a secret society, half of like a business clan that was starting to get fueled up in the late 19th century in America. Well, he was a big proponent in the Canadian technocrats. Well, what happened is they actually riled up against the local government, the technocrats did, and he actually got kicked out. He got imprisoned and kicked out of Canada.
Hmm.
And he had a bunch of money. And so he told his wife, he said, hey, babe, I'm a vigilante, baby. I'm kicked out of Canada. You want to take this personal plane and fly around the world and see the seven wonders? She's like, of course I do. I love you. Let's do it. So they got in their little plane and they started to fly around the world. Through there, they met all these the right people that they needed to meet. Some of them being the John D. Rockefeller when they were starting the Standard Oil Company in the earliest of the 20th century. John D. Rockefeller and Henry Flagler, who you just say that name a lot of times, people are like, ears up, radars up.
Mm-hmm.
But I can give you the history on John D. Rockefeller as well and the Standard Oil Company, but we won't get into that right now. But they were friends with them, and which meant that the business that they started when they landed their final trip, they landed their home in South Africa, where they got into the mining industry, mining minerals in South Africa in the early 20th century. So when you're friends with John D. Rockefeller and these different other miners who run the oil business, and you're mining rare and special minerals, you're a good person to have in the back pocket there.
Mm-hmm.
So Elon Musk's mother, is born in South Africa, and she's beautiful. She's been a model. She was hanging out with Charles Manson, and she was in the original Charles Manson Helter Skelter book before they took her image out. She was hanging out in Laurel Canyon with Bob Dylan and The Doors, Jim Morrison. Like Laurel Canyon was popping off right at Mae Musk, and her popularity and fame started to grow, and she became a model and so on and so forth. She then married another guy from South Africa whose family comes from mining. So both of Elon Musk's parents come from South African mining families.
Mm-hmm.
Deep money. All puns intended. That money runs deep, brother.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at companies like Tesla, and how we're getting lithium and things to make these very specific, high technologically advanced systems. Well, it all pays homage back to the ancient mining roots, that comes from that. So the access to these minerals and lifelong access to big deep pockets of money. And so I think a lot of what we experience in the societal simulation is a lot of it's like kind of like planned out, in the sense
Mm,
that, like, like, hey, because things take a long time to put into place when we're talking about big, huge scale.
mm, mm,
And I think the plan to make oil obsolete has been a plan for over 50 years at the minimum. But you need a way for the families that have this money, the families that have access to all of these fortunes, and these operations. It takes time for them to be like, no, we're going to go oil obsolete, but we need to make sure all of our finances are set straight
hmm.
ahead of time.
We
And
need to
so,
convince the public. We need to, basically create the story of how it happens. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think that I'm with you. It's very easy to see with a little bit of history, to see behind the curtains, to like see
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, so he's actually just a pawn, and like he's made to be loved by these people, and blah blah. It's frustrating, man, because I feel like it's impossible to look. I mean, you don't have to look that deeply nowadays into much to find like, oh, I tripped over a giant cable that they just they put a rug over it, and 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 you like think. I feel like, if I was a young person, if I was discovering all this stuff when I was like 15 or 16, I feel like I would just be, on the streets, like, um, you know like fucking catching things on fire. I don't know. It's I don't know, dude. Like, the older I get, the more you discover all of these structures that are clearly like all just. I don't know that our input really even matters. I don't know that, like, we
Ugh,
we think that. I mean, I don't mean to sound that so nihilistic. I understand that that sounds so nihilistic, but I'm
I
just
love
saying,
it.
like,
I love it.
sometimes we think we discover these things and it's like a smoking gun, and I feel that way often, but it's almost like I don't know how else it's gonna be. Like, I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
our story is so entrenched in itself. Like, the truth is so far from how we see reality that I don't even know if, like, trying to backtrack and get back to capital T truth and what's right is, like,
Mhm.
even gonna put us where we think it will. I mean, I don't know, man.
You have to work on your capital T, baby.
That's true.
At the
That's
end of
all
the
we can
day.
do, right? That's
Yeah.
all we can really do, and that's all we're supposed to do. That's literally actually a very important part of this whole thing, even functioning properly. Is we all have to make our own bed, as old JP says.
Is that JP Morgan?
JP, yeah, it's Jamie JP Morgan. No, I'm just kidding. Jordan Peterson. Uh,
Oh, okay. Well, JP Morgan had one of these quotes, and I was like, oh wow, no JP Morgan quote. He had one quote that was said, millionaires don't have astrologers. Billionaires do.
oh shit, I've heard this actually. I didn't realize I heard this until you just reset it. Okay, can we open this door into astrology? I mean, so okay, you've also haven't mentioned. uh, It sounds like you know a lot about astrology and like this whole world. Like, can I mean, even like knowing
I
Scorpio and like that sort of stuff. Like, a lot of people, you got to understand, your basic listener is gonna know like, oh yeah, like horoscopes, and I know that I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm like a Sagittarius, and like I see it
Mhm.
3 times a year. I look at my horoscope and it's like, oh, it kind of lines up. That's cool. But otherwise, like, people don't know about it. Like, what,
Yeah.
I don't know. Has this changed your view of yourself and your life and how you see the world a lot? Like, the more you learn about it.
I'm looking at my bookshelf. I'm like, what can I grab really quickly to kind of read? But you know, it's so there are 7 sacred sciences of antiquity that the people that have, you know, had had money and power for a long time follow these things. So all of our entire system that we run everything on comes from an old system. And nothing that we have now, like, I mean, besides like the specific technology that we have now, is new. The systems that we're running upon and the psychology and philosophies that we're running on are actually incredibly ancient. That's why when you look at the dollar bill and you look at the back of it and you see all these like interesting symbols and things, you're like, what is this pyramid with a floating capstone and an eye in it? Like, what is this? It's an ancient philosophy. And so one of the 7 sacred ancient philosophies is, in fact, astrology and astronomy. So this is incredibly important. So when somebody like JP Morgan, one of the richest, influential bankers of all of American history, supposedly sunk the Titanic, by the way. Fun story, won't get into that now. But when he says something like millionaires, which a lot is money that a lot of us can't fathom, don't have astrologers, but billionaires, which is even more money that we can barely fathom, do. They have astrologers. What it means is John Dee is one of the most famous magicians and occultists of history in English history. He's the original 007. He's the original, he created the British intelligence system. He was making huge birth charts for the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth I, when the Renaissance period started. And they would hire him to say, when is she going to become queen? When is the coronation ceremony? And he gets on his chart, looks at the stars, you know. Observation decks have been funded by huge political money. Tycho Brahe to create this observatory in Sweden on an island to look at the stars, to map the stars. Everything that we actually function on is based from astronomy and astrology and celestial observations. So it's intertwined within everything that we are and everything that we do, whether people want to fucking believe it or not. It doesn't matter. It is. We live in the celestial map. We are here. We are a part of the zodiac. We are a part of astrology. We live on a planet, you know, whether or not it's geocentric, heliocentric, it doesn't matter. It is imbued upon our life. And so it has blown my fucking mind getting into all these things. And it's taken a long time to really, I don't know the archetypes of every single sign. I don't. I'm not an astrologer. But what I do is I surround myself with people who are. That's the best way I know how to do it, you know, because we all have our skills. So I have another show called Moon Mysteries that I work specifically with a Canadian astrologer named Kaylee Burkana. And we just go into the mysteries of the moon. And she is amazing. And she is so smart, dude. She knows every single archetype of every zodiac sign. And, you know, through more than that, more than just like a two-dimensional circle on a piece of paper that has an animal shape and that has a similar, no, it's more than that. We're talking about these move, and as they move, the archetype changes, and every single dimensional shift that happens, it morphs. That's why the second of your birth time is so important, to actually know what archetypal role that you might have imbued upon your life. It is really, really, really important. Because
I don't know the second I was born. I've never looked into that.
I mean, you can go minute, like you don't have to go second. But do you know your birth time?
I don't know. I don't think I ever looked into it.
Call your mom. Get her to send a picture of your birth certificate.
Probably know, yeah.
It's on your birth certificate. Get that, and get a reading from my friend, and she'll blow your mind, because this is what. Like JP Morgan was saying, he has an astrologer. He pays somebody to tell him what the space weather is going to be, so he knows when he should make an investment. He knows what's going to be a dark time for him. He knows what's going to be a light time for him. You know, I think, and that is a simulation in the sense that we were talking about earlier. There's societal simulation, and then there's a celestial code. And I think that, you know, at the time that are inoculated onto this planet, that we're imbued with an algorithm or a code in ourselves that almost has a fulfilled role. Now, and I think that's part of the layers that we're shedding off. I think has to do with that true like resonance and I want to say it again. Algorithm that is just, that's who we are. Like, why are our personalities so fucking strong? Why do they why are our personalities so unique and different? So a lot of times it's genetic for sure, but, and you know, but it's unique and different. And a lot of the answers are in the ancient mysteries of astrology.
Yeah. I mean, it's really back to that like dorky, hair follicle little analogy that I use. Like we just try to we try to say, what's my report card now? Like, who am I and how did I get there? And a lot of times we don't, we forget that we should keep going back because we play who we are is like, I mean, people talk about star seeds, like, cool, go all the way back then. Like, you're a little piece of just space dust, bro, at some point. And so it all plays a role into who you are. Like, it's easy to like make sense of finding out who you are of like, okay, within this, 31 years that I've been alive, like what happened to me when I was a kid and what happened to my parents and what were their genetics. Yeah, that's a way of understanding yourself. But there's also like, okay, now keep backing it up. And it gets more complicated. It gets a little bit more ethereal. It gets more into that area of, like we're saying, you can't exactly always use language. You kind of have to dance around the dance floor to paint the picture of it. But really, I mean, yeah, understanding ourselves. It's interesting. I think what we do, man, is this. You mentioned spiritual ego. We have science ego too. Our modern culture has science ego, and in the second I say that, some people might say like, "Oh, well, that's because you're like a spiritual hippie, like you must love religion." Or I mean, it's like no, like the second you say even science ego, or like you say anything about science, we defend it. We're like, "Don't you dare!" And that's great because science is fucking amazing in every way, and it's literally so. I mean, like it's beyond words how amazing it is. But it's not only science; it's science. And there's a lot to be learned and siphoned through like all these other histories. Like we're really going to be so bold and so arrogant and so pompous that we're going to say the only things that are true is what we've learned in the last 200 years. With, like, in what we have learned in the last 200 years, completely, it's so much more true and authentic than anything that all those old books. It's like, hold on. Like, you don't think the other people in all these other cultures and histories of human civilizations have had this wonder that's at the core of all of our beings of like, what am I? What is this? They've studied it too. And a lot of their contemplative answers have led to these stories and these books and these ways of seeing the world and ways of saying, I'm here and that star is up there. Huh. And you study that for hundreds of thousands of years and you actually get like understandings of, just like when you like, oh, it feels good for, me to put my wee-wee inside that girl's thingy. And then you start to notice after hundreds of thousands of years, wow, 9 months later, that's when that like creature comes out. Like think about how long we had to as humans like start banging before we realized that thing we did that long ago is what made this baby happen 9 months later. Like our correlations between time frames, we don't fully understand. It takes us a long time to go, oh shit, okay. And then we can start learning about it. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Such
understanding the pattern, man, like we were saying, and then when to break it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's helpful to look at your short-term history for sure, but like it's also very helpful to look at, not only helpful, but fascinating and wonderful and fun to like learn about astrology and alchemy and like what have other people who have lived in different time frames than me, what did they learn about? What's that one? What's that book you're holding up?
It's the Alchemist Handbook.
Alchemist Handbook.
Frater Albertus.
I haven't read that.
Dude, because you were talking about the past 200 years and like the separation of science and God, and then you brought up alchemy just now, and it's like, for people that don't know, and alchemy is getting thrown around a lot right now. And so, wait, let's go like this. Okay, it's a chemist handbook.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Alchemist Handbook. And what is Al? A-L is Allah. 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 L Enlil. L-A-L-E-L is an old Hebrew word for God.
God's chemical handbook.
Yes, it's the Alchemist Handbook. And basically, we had science and God intertwined together, and philosophy itself all intertwined together until there was a huge separation. And about 200 years ago, like you were saying, I have a theory that isn't even that far of a stretch when you start to study history and these things. But the theory is that alchemy got to a point where they couldn't not create the philosopher's stone. They were transmuting the gold. Like a lot of people talk about transmuting lead into gold. Yes, that's a thing. Like that can happen. It's happened. People, we can do that now. Gold is created. So gold was always created in ancient Egypt and ancient Mayan culture and ancient Aztec culture. Gold was manufactured. It was amalgamated. It was mined for sure, but you're not pulling out 99.9% pure gold out of the land. And you're not pulling out tons of it. What you're doing is you're figuring out how to extract it and then how to blend it with other metals to make what we consider to be really good amalgamated gold. And so that was a large part of this like alchemical process, but there was many parts of this alchemical process, many of these legs. And what I think happened is, you know, alchemy was the science of ancient Egypt. That's where it began. And the pyramids themselves were in a lot of ways used for alchemical processes. And but alchemy was more than just the science base of like getting into the still, like doing all of these like different types of practices, right? It was more than that. It was a philosophy, and it was a part of going through a mental turning and turning yourself into the philosopher's stone. Now, some of the most famous alchemists in the world, like Saint Germain, and even later alchemists like Fulcanelli, they have said that they have never died, and they basically have found the fountain of youth, the Ponce de Leon, and they have lived forever. So I think my theory is that we worked up for thousands of years the alchemical process, and then once we started to get to a point where society started to teeter-totter, where we were like, okay, now everybody's really interested in it. It's not just the higher echelons of people in power that are starting to do these things. There's way too many magical people right now. Yeah. We need to shift this back into it. So that's why I think also the founding of America was about 200 years ago too, right? A little over 200, right? You know, 1777, so on and so forth. You know, it was really in the 1650s when the Renaissance period started to happen, and the Protestant Reformation and the burning of witches. Thinking about the witch hunts, how many there's claims to be millions of witches burned, right? That's so much family lineage that will never be told. And the truth of it was like it'll be skewed. Like you'd be like, okay, my grandma was a part of the you know, the Protestant Reformation and the witch trials back in the 1600s, but because sometimes it happens so brutally, so fast, a lot of these stories weren't able to live on. Like they took really knowledgeable people who were doing magical workings and they killed them. And so I think
history is written by its victors, as they say.
It's his story,
right? Yeah. So there's a lot of like I mean, really, right there, what you just said, like really just contemplating. Think about all those instances in our history that like the second that person's last breath leaves their lungs, like everything they know is like, if they haven't passed it along, it's gone. Like, I mean, sure, there's some sort of collective unconscious, you know, there's something there, but we don't know that information. If they weren't able to pass it on, and then so, you know, the person standing there holding the knife now tells their version of that person on the ground's story. And we act from that as our truth. And that's a dangerous spot. Maybe not dangerous spot, but it's a potentially dangerous spot if I'm going to kind of just the spot. It's what it is. It's
yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's maybe not good nor bad. It's just really the truth of the thing.
I mean, it's sad is what it is. It is fucking sad. And there is a spiritual war happening in that sense that like not all these witches were, you know, in here concocting poisons to kill society. You know, they were working for their family, and they saw that there was people that magic is real. That's what I've come to, man. Yeah, like dude. after working like all this shit, like looking up history, getting into this, I'm like, magic's real. Yeah. Our ancestors knew it, everything. But why is it so taboo now?
It's
going
because we're caught
on?
up in our language, man. Relax with the words, relax with the names, and you know exactly what's going on. That's all there is to it. We actually I've been thinking a lot about our language lately and how we've been reacting and acting. Like I watched a lot of this Kanye stuff. I'm a huge fan of Kanye. I think our
Me
reactions to
too,
like,
actually.
yeah, I think he's so misunderstood. I mean, it's a whole can of whoop ass to even talk about this, but we get so caught up on these words. He said Jew. Jew. He said it
Yep.
like it's Lord Voldemort, bro. Like, get out of here. Grow up. You know exactly like what's he talking about. And I'm not saying I'm not saying we could say whatever we want. Words are powerful. Words are so powerful. But a lot of times I'm sitting back, you know, in the same way that you're telling your story about when you were a kid and you guys are like, we want our cookies, and you just get all the 100 kids together to like run over this poor old lady. Did she survive, by the way?
She did. She did. I mean,
she's like she's in a wheelchair right now listening to this podcast, just like, damn you. But you know, a lot of the where yeah, in that same sense, you know, I've also kind of always been someone, you know, maybe it's in our Scorpio-ish nature, to when I'm involved in things, I can see them from the outside. I'm able to. I always have a meta eye on the situation. It's just like, and you realize that not everybody works that way.
heightened intuition.
Yeah, so I've actually used this to I described to a therapist one time when I was talking about like my childhood. Like, it's like, okay, we're a family watching TV. You know, we're all together and we're watching TV, and I'm aware the whole time that we're a family watching. I'm watching us watch TV. You know, instead of like my sisters and my mother and father are like, they're in this story and they're like laughing about whatever. Like, they're not thinking about thinking. You know, I've always been aware. And so like when adults would like do like the white lie thing that you don't tell kids the whole truth, you know, you give them, you know, you in some senses you pad the world, and in some senses I don't like that sense. But I was always so aware, like, okay, so I'm watching you lie to me, but I guess that's what we do. Okay. And I'm like, fuck. Okay. And I feel like that's like why I'm good at, like I'm a natural introvert in every way, but I'm very good at being an extrovert, because I've always been like, okay, so we do that. All right. Like, okay. Like, I'm very aware. I didn't stop being aware, but I'm like, okay, I'll do the games. I'm just not really fucking fully sure why we're doing it this way. Like, if you're going to lie to me, you're going to lie to me, I guess. But, shit, I forgot exactly what we were getting along about.
Well, I want a question for you real quick, because I feel like, I wonder if this is just like a growing up as a Scorpio type of thing. When I was a kid, I had this movie theater in my head. Do you remember Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Yeah.
The little shadows of the guys down there
Yeah,
watching
they're
it.
watching it, like talking shit about the movie as they're watching it, right? Yeah.
I had that in my head for I think like a 2-year period. And one instance specific, I remember the Blockbuster that was right over by the Triangle Mall, right where, you know, back in Kelso. And I was in like the Blockbuster, the movie rental place, whatever. And I just remember that there was these nuns, and they would walk in through my ear, and they would go and sit down in the seats in my head, watching what I'm watching, commenting on what I'm seeing. And I couldn't have been more than like 9 or 10 years old. But that's that observation of thinking about thinking, seeing what you're seeing from an outside perspective. So is that kind of what you had too? Like, did you ever like have a voice inside your head that was kind of commenting on the things that were happening?
Yeah, almost in a sense. Yeah. I mean, I don't think mine was as like playfully visual. I think that mine always had this I don't know, like madness to it or something. I don't know. There wasn't a lot of like playfulness to mine, but yeah, it's a layer removed. Like it's almost I mean, it's really like just being overly aware or like consistently aware. But it is, yeah, I don't know. It's almost like a consistently checking in on your story rather than living your story or something. I wonder if it's like so I don't know if it's like sometimes I think it's a trauma thing. I thought that it was something that I learned from like having a traumatic childhood. I thought that it was like a disassociative thing, and I learned how to be disassociative and then use it as a skill. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if did you have any like young childhood before? Did you have childhood trauma? Would you consider yourself someone who had
Oh God.
significant that would cause you to, as a child, put on armor or disassociate or depersonalize any sort of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Again, I'm
my-
sorry. Also, if like you don't have to indulge your whole personal life. I know I get like very deep, so like just feel free to tell me I'm going too far, Roman.
no, we'll get into it because it kind of paints a good picture, I guess, too, of like why I was able to see some of the fuckery that was going on as a kid. But actually, I've had like kind of like it's fucked up, and not a lot of people know it unless you like get to know the story. But so my dad was 25 and my mom was 15. And he was like a tall, good looking surfer guy that kind of was breezing through town. And my father actually has impregnated like 11 women and had 11 different children up and down the West Coast. He's he grew up like partying with the Chili Peppers and Sublime in Southern California. So he was like surfing, skating, partying, all these things, making his way up and down the West Coast. But he wasn't necessarily a predator in the sense that like, he raped my mother, because my mother was very consensually into the situation. And they met when she was 15, but she didn't get pregnant until she was 17, right? So they kind of like came through town. My mom dropped out of school as a freshman in high school at 14, 15. And all her sisters, she has 3 sisters, and they're all like addicted to different hard drugs. My mother is the only non-drug addict out of all of them. Terry, Teresa, and Tracy are like either addicted to like crack, meth, or one of these other drugs. And so they're still for the most part like homeless and still on hard drugs. And my mom's just always been like a rock to them, so she saw that at a young age. My grandma was kind of crazy. My grandma did this thing. She like stabbed a man, one of her boyfriends in Kelso on Cherry Street. Damn. She stabbed a man, and then she took the knife to my mom and her sisters and said, "If you tell anybody about this, you're dead." And then she proceeded to like beat herself up until the cops came so she could blame the stabbing as self-defense. So Wowzers. My childhood was not nearly as traumatic as my mom's childhood. But what happened is my mom is such an angel, a legitimate angel, in the sense that like she's been such a light in so many women's lives. She's a very, very prominent woman in a lot of women's lives. Like she's selflessly gone to NA for years. She was never a drug addict, but she just wanted to be around people who have had those experiences because she felt more connected to people who were dealing with drugs than not, because that's how she grew up. Wow. And so I saw that growing up too. I saw harsh drug abuse as a child to my blood family members, and I kind of like opened me up, because when you start to like see gnarly drug abuse, especially as an introspective Scorpio, right? Like you start to say like, wow, this is totally not right. Like there's something completely wrong. You're hurt. You were so hurt, and I'm so sorry. Like what can we do to make you better? And so all that was happening, so on and so forth. But so my mom got pregnant with this guy. He didn't stick around. Like he did zero parenting. Brad was an absolute like.
It's funny, his name was Brad, by the way.
I know, right? Sublime.
No, I just feel like you're like 25-year-old surfer guy who has 11 kids. Seems like his name would be Brad. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know.
Oh my God, no, that's hilarious. Yeah, no, he's a total fucking Brad. And Brad. He had a kid. I have a brother who's 6 months younger than me with a different mom, same dad. So you do the math there. 6 months. He impregnated another chick in the same town. Man. And but he left. And what happened was, 3 years later, he called my mom and said, "I want to see Roman, like, blah, blah, blah." And she's just like, "Well, where have you been? Like, fuck you, And he's just like, oh, I'm living in Hawaii. I'm living in Maui. You should totally have him come out here.
Mhm.
So he convinces my mom to fly me out there.
Oh, wow.
I go out there. 1 week passes, 2 weeks pass, 3 weeks pass. She tries to call him. Phone's disconnected. 1 month passes. 2 months pass. Nothing. Now she's freaking out. Okay, she is
So you haven't talked to your mom this whole time?
This whole time, he's not talking to her. I mean, I'm 4 years old, dude, you know? So like, so the only thing I remember, it wasn't until I was 15 that I remembered this, that I remember sitting in a high chair and there being like a plate of eggs in front of me in the high chair, and my face just getting smushed into the plate of eggs.
Oh, damn.
And I was just like, and I look up and I see this helicopter and my mom like ascending down a rope on the helicopter. And like, I was sitting in her car, you know, at 15, and I was like, Ma, I keep having these dreams. Like, I've had this dream repetitively. Like, it's just crazy. I have to tell you about it. She's like, oh, that's not a dream. Your dad kidnapped you. Like,
oh my God.
Fucking kidnapped. I was like, wait, what? Like,
Bro.
That's real? The helicopter? Like, how the fuck did that? She's like, they were in my dad was dating this local Hawaiian woman that had like property deep out in Hana. Like you had to fucking basically take a chopper to it because you're 4-wheel driving the whole time. And I was like, what? So, the trauma, like, I don't necessarily think I've like had the trauma in the sense that like, I don't feel like I've had trauma, but traumatic things have happened.
Mm. I'm sure that those experiences were a cataclysmic experience for who you are today. Had you not been through the kidnapping experiences, I don't think that you would be who you are today. I mean, obviously you wouldn't. But,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's probably a pretty profound experience. Like, it's probably pretty like developmental experience. These things, like what we do in reaction to the trauma, to these big things. Yeah. I'm sorry to derail you again.
No, you're good. I love your insights. I'm literally, every time you speak, it's beautiful. So I love it, brother.
Thanks, man.
And so one of the other crazy things about this specifically was, so like 16 or 17. So like, I didn't know that my father was living in Kelso. I didn't know that he was living in the same town because there was no hearing from him, but he was actually had contacted my mom trying to get a hold of me for years, but she didn't want him to until he got sober because he was a drunk, and he never got sober. So when he passed away, when I was, oh, that's right. It was 8th grade. Wow. Okay. Yeah. It was 8th grade. I got kicked out of school in 8th grade, and I got moved to, out in Lexington, there's like that 7-Day Adventist church in Lexington.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they have a very small school with 8 8th graders. And I got kicked out of my school, huge school. I was, friends with everybody, all the things, I got moved to this private school because I just kept getting in trouble. And I was there, and one day, someone comes to me and they're like, your father's in the hospital, like with sepsis disease. And I was like, what? And like, I fake cried. I had to fake cry because I didn't know what to feel because I didn't know him.
Well, that's interesting.
I like made myself cry on the couch so I could get out of going to school. Because I didn't fucking care.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
And you're like, but I know that the thing you're supposed to do is care. Like, I know that, like, oh yeah, that this is what you do when things like this happen. This is what this is what society says to do. Yeah, totally. I totally relate with that because I had a lot of moments like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna cry. That's what we do. I'm not sure if I'm connecting to it.
I love it. I love that. That's a Scorpio way, man. Like, hold on, wait, let me see. What are we supposed to do? Look at everybody. Okay, and then sink into it.
Huh? Am I crying? Have you seen was it North Korea, like where they have to there's videos of them crying when their leader has died, and it has to be like a performative because like you can get murdered in thrown inside a camp if you aren't bawling your eyes out to know
What?
yeah, because like you know you have to be loyal to your leader, like he is God, you know, he's everything to you. And so if you aren't devastated the fact that he died, then like clearly you're, you know, anti him. So yeah, there's these videos of like it's just the whole crowd is just panning on the crowd of people going and it's dude, it goes on. Apparently these things go on for like crazy amounts of time because everyone is just one-upping each other, and it just becomes this like hours of just performative like you know. Yeah, can you imagine? And it's funny, we do like little versions of that just to fit in. Carl Jung actually talks about you know, he in one of his older books, Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, where he's like an older man before he died, he talks about when he was younger, he kind of has these instances that you're recalling where like you know, like someone said, you know, you say, hey, your father died, and you know you're supposed to cry, so you cry, but you kind of know you're faking it. He has recollections of even like making himself, he would physically pass out, he'd faint in like on the playground and stuff like that. And he has these instances of remembering now that he's older that he actually kind of did that to himself. Like he can recall kind of the process of it, like him doing these things. So I don't know. I guess that's not super correlated, but it's very interesting to look at as we get older and we retrospectively look back at the things we did when we were younger with a little bit of like knowledge and wisdom. We can go, huh, like that almost wasn't real what I did. Like I was actually crying performatively. And like how many people are doing that and they're kind of aware they're doing that in the moment, but they're not able to see that they're doing it at the same time. You know, it's tricky.
I just turned my heater on by my feet.
So gotta keep them toasty.
Can you hear? Can you hear the heater?
No, it sounds totally fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh
cool.
yeah, no, yeah. I don't even hear it.
Sweet.
Yeah. Are you? Is it cold where you're at? You're Northern California?
Northern California in the mountains. So high elevation. It's chilly. It's not cold. Like I walk outside naked in the morning in the fog. You know, dude, you have to.
Bro, I live in an apartment. I miss, you know, having my dick out the back door. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I do know what you're saying because I fucking love it. I'm leaving this mountain soon though, and I'm driving to Florida in the next, I think on the 23rd, I'm going to be driving to Florida to go work.
Oh, damn, you going through Texas?
Not really. I
on
think
your way,
so.
Actually, no, it would be on your way, dude. If you are anywhere near Austin, like within a couple, like I mean, I could even. I'm 3 hours from Dallas and stuff. I could meet you. I'll drive up and meet you wherever you're at.
Oh, dude, I'll come to Austin. Like I've been meaning to do that.
Dude, Austin. Have you spent any time in Austin?
I went on tour with. I'm looking up my map route real quick. I went on tour with a band a few years ago. This band called The Weather Machine. They were a really great folk indie band out of Portland, and I became really good friends with one of the guys. And we went on a cross country tour, and
beautiful.
Through that, I went to a shit ton of places. One of my favorite was Montreal. Dude, like the poutine was insane, but the things I remember most about like traveling is always like the food, you know. In Austin, we had breakfast tacos because our van actually broke down. We were getting van work in Austin. I can't even tell you where. Like I have no idea. I don't even know where I was. Like if I were to go back, I might not even recognize it because it was just like 2 or 3 days of just intense energy of traveling. And it says, okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, dude, if you do make it this way, we'll find some sort of. I mean, I have a couple places that I've found. I'm pretty loner here, so like I really haven't explored as much as you would imagine. Like someone like moving to a place like Austin, I really have not like dove into the like food and you know, culture as much as I should have. But there's some places we can check out, and then we could also like. There's so many places for breakfast tacos and amazing food and cool environments in Austin. It's so filled up to the brim with amazing opportunities like that the day of we can look up on our phones or drive around and just see what feels good, and we'll find somewhere like you could. It's one of those things you throw a dart and you land on something just great. It's all awesome here. I feel like I mean, I know everybody says it, but I feel like it's just such a cool spot, and everything's pretty damn good here. It seems like.
Dude, I mean, I have no qualms with Austin. Like, I really want to spend more time there. It looks like on the map, it's would either put me up towards Dallas or San Antonio, but it looks like
San Antonio is like an hour and a half from here.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go through that way, and then I'll make sure I stop in Austin because I want to stay there.
Yeah. I was gonna say if it works out for you, and if you need a place to crash, this lovely blue couch behind me has your name written all over it, my friend.
Oh, I see that. It's in graffiti too, right there on the side.
There it is.
Right next to.
Yeah, it's you know what I said last night. Yeah, if you look closely, it says the most handsome. It's written in graffiti on there. I said that last night at a gig. I got there and like there's a ton of people, so you check in, so they make sure they're like, okay, you're here to work. And I tried that. It's under most handsome. And I was the only one laughing in that situation, as it turns out.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't find that humorous.
And it was too much. It was too much chaos. There was too many other people. There was a huge line behind me. It wasn't the time for the jokes. You know, I didn't read the room. I was just trying to fit in my jokes. So that's why.
That's a Scorpio thing, man. It's we have these really great jokes, but like, we just say them whenever the fuck we want, as opposed to the right time.
Yeah, dude, I tried it out all, bro. If I could shoe it in, I'm gonna shoe it in. And if I'm around a group that I've realized hasn't heard this specific joke, it's gonna get recycled. I'm gonna say it again.
Just waiting for that one person just to like leave the circle for a second who has heard the joke before, just so you can. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Or sometimes I'll say the joke and then I'll immediately like just connect with that person. Like, I know you've heard me say this joke, but like just let it. Just like you break the wall of the joke by mentioning the joke, which automatically negates it. So it's this whole fucking thing. Okay. So I had a question about comedy because I am a huge fan of comedy, and I think it's an interesting conversation. But I also think that a nice question that was formulating for you would be like, so say you're able to like connect with your like karmic family of thousands of years, and you could write a postcard. And it's like hey, it's Roman, like, hey, look, on this lifetime I've been able to wake up. I remembered my true self. I remember that I'm here on this karmic cycle to like experience life and love and this whole thing. And I'm just checking in from Earth. Like, here's how I'm doing. Here's what I've learned so far. Like as Roman, like I don't know. Does anything come to mind? Like I guess your postcard of life right now. What have you learned?
Dude,
what's going on?
That is such a deep question. I love the visuals too. Like you're writing a cosmic card to your ancestors who are just on the other side of the veil waiting for you. Yeah. I'd be like, just give me 1 second here.
No rush. Paint it, brother.
I'm trying not to do the thing where like I think for a long time about something that's supposed to be deep, and then I make a joke out of it, and then like do something sarcastic.
Dude, anyway.
But I think I would say something along the lines of that. First of all, my journey here is not near completion. Thank you guys for waiting for me. I love you very much. I love love. I love my dog. What are dogs? Please write back and tell me why dogs are so connected to us in society. And I think I'm getting closer to discovering how to optimize my true energy and magic. It might be another decade, but I think we're onto something here.
I think I'm getting close. All right, how do you think they open the mail and they read it? What do you think they're saying?
They'd probably just be like, what a fucking turd. Look at this guy.
He thinks he's getting close. He has billions more years.
Oh, God. No, it's so true, man. Like,
hey, that is beautiful, though. You love love and you love your dog. And it's like just the things that is what it's all about, man. It's like, what are the things that remind you to be right here? I love that even before this, we were messaging before this podcast and you're like, all right, bro, I'll see you in a little bit. I'm going to go hang out or I'm going to go play with my dog. And it's like, that's exactly what it's about. Dude,
Oh,
like
dude.
find some time to play with your dog, you know? What else is there to do?
Some people say that you know your pet or your familiar is your eighth chakra.
What does that mean to you? You're familiar with your eighth
To
chakra?
me, so like a familiar in magical terms, like a witch has a familiar, or magician or sorcerer, they have this animal entity. Like Salvador Dali had anteaters. He would go on stage, dude. You have to look up videos of how he would have anteaters on leashes. Salvador Dali.
Kind of hard.
It's
Kind of hard, dude.
it's so hard,
No.
dude. Like with his mustache too.
Yeah.
You know what a gangster. But what it means is like, dude, you choose, like you choose to have that eighth chakra, that connection point to this being. You know, when you're not just white picket fencing your life, and you're just like, well, we've had 3 kids, it's time to get a dog now, right, hun? Like when you choose, I didn't choose to get a dog either. I did not choose to get Zuchi Boy. One of my friend's wife's brother had a dog that he couldn't take care of, and they asked me, they're like, hey, you like animals, right? And I was like, I mean, yeah, like, what kind of question is that? Of course. Not a complete POS. And so I went over, and you know, and then it happened, and then now here we are over a year later, that like there's such a bond that like I look at him, and you know, as a Scorpio, I'm like, I hold him, I'm like, when are you gonna die? Like, don't leave me, you son of a bitch. Like he's like fully living and like just, but
He's like, Dad, stop talking about my mortality. Damn.
I'm like, I can't help it.
I love
dude,
you when you're gonna die.
We're connected to these animals, and we choose that connection because we are so in love with love. Like humans are love. Like everything that we have down to our core is a passion, it's a heartbeat, it's a feeling, and it's the vibration of unconditional love. No matter what, when you separate all the layers, that's what it is. And you get in tune with that by surrounding yourself with the things that make you feel, that make it easy for you to feel that love. You know, when you're with a partner and it's not easy for you to break down and feel that, you know, there's some deeper things that you need to work on there. But if you have a partner where it's just, it's so easy for you just to respect them, for you to respect yourself, for you to take time, you're not feeling anxious, and you have the animal, you know, like a lot of times is like, we were talking earlier about, you know, like having experiences with people that in the different levels and layers that we're on. I think, you know, you'll be up here on level 60 sometimes, but one day you might just have taken the elevator down to level 24 because your energy is here. You're not feeling like you want to be nice to anybody. You're feeling like you just kind of want to like, you just fuck it all. I'm going to start drinking beer at, you know, noon today or whatever. And it's just, so it's not easy to always be at that high level, and it's okay to take the elevator down from times, but having these things surrounded, like create a community. It doesn't need to be a million fucking friends, but create a community of a turtle and a dog and your guitar and your bananas that you love or whatever. And just try to emanate that, man. And, you know, kind of grasp onto it and just try to be as much lovey love. And breathing helps. Breathing practices help a lot.
Hallelujah. Amen to that. Yeah, I think that's what it is, dude. I mean, it's really, you know, you and I as like artists, or you know, sometimes I hesitate to call myself a musician, but musicians.
I
like,
know, dude. I feel that.
I know. And then when I explain it, now I have this caveat of saying I don't call myself a musician, so that sounds even more. It's just a fucking more layers, you know. It's all you know, just ego stroking, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's really just, you know, all these things that we're doing, playing with a dog, you know, getting into flow states, the flow state, you know, the athletes talk about, you know, it's beyond runner's high. You're not thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about your past. You're not thinking about your future. You're not thinking about what you need to do, what you have done, what you haven't done. You're just existing in the now. And it's really the art of owning a dog. Is like, if you ask a dog owner, you know, okay, so say I'm a little kid and I'm asking you as a dog owner, like, hey, what's the point of owning a dog? You'd be like, what do you mean? Like you don't. It's like the point isn't to see how old you can get the dog before he dies. Like, oh, I did a good job of raising a dog. It's like, no. This is an act of joy. this is love. And that's what it is. That's what it's about. It's like, you know, you partake on that adventure of trying, you know, when you're petting a dog's belly and you're laughing and you're talking in doggy voice, you're not thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about your insecurities that we all have. You're not thinking about how cool you think you are. You're not thinking about how awesome you look right now petting this dog's belly. You know, you're just existing with the dog, and the consistent chattering of the mind falls away. So you're just, you know, in a state of flow. Like I was saying, you know, just as a musician and a runner and an athlete, and all these people are trying to find their version of flow. Owning a dog and being with a dog and loving a dog and having a dog love you is also a state of flow. This whole thing is all about play. If you can find a way to get into a state of play, whether that's with another human or a dog or an art form, I think, man, I don't know. The older I get, the more I realize that, like, oh, that's what it's about. Because you can't take any of it with you. You don't get to take the dog with you, but you can have an experience with the dog right now. You know?
Yes, and do that. Like, just
yeah.
I think so. There's something to the dog God connection.
Ooh.
Right? You know, I've been trying to find it. I'm looking for it still. And it's,
there's at least a poem in there.
There's definitely a poem in there. And maybe that'll be like the workings that happened. Oh, did you get a chance to check out the moon last night after your gig?
No, I didn't. I didn't get out till probably like 2:30, and then I was just tired. Yeah.
What do you be doing?
Last night I was taking down like a wrestling show. So like AEW, ACW or whatever. It's not like WWF, but it's basically 14 semi trucks. We set it all up. They have like the ring. They have like the antics, the acting, the stage, the lights, whatever. We set up all that. I was mainly a lighting tech yesterday. So
nice. How long have you been doing that?
Man, I've been that's what I do. So my job nowadays is. I mean, I'm technically an audio engineer. I have a degree in that. All my years of DJing, that adds a lot of like work in that. And then I'm an audio video production technician, and a stagehand. So pretty much like anything to do with live events, I'm involved in. I get paid to do things at live events. And nowadays I'm getting like,
epic.
I'm getting a lot of good knowledge. So I'm, you know, my abilities to do certain roles at these shows is expanding. So it's very exciting. But yeah, last night was just stagehand stuff. Sometimes I'm making good money and I'm like the cool audio guy and I'm the cool guy who knows all the info. And then sometimes I'm just making $18.50 and I'm carrying heavy ass shit, and it's humbling and I love it. And I get to like, you know, meet really cool people, and you know, it's been a fun journey. That's what I do.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, that's kind of a dream job for me. Like I love, you know, like I said, I've been on tour with 2 bands now, just being helpful. I wasn't part of the band. I wasn't part of the music, but I was, you know, we load in, load out. I make sure boys get their drinks. We make sure we get paid. I set up the merch booth. And
there's whole jobs for that, bro. Whole jobs.
Dude, do you know jobs for that? Try to come move to Austin and try to get these gigs.
You can do it. I mean, dude, I'm sure you'd be totally fine. I mean, you know, you got a smart head on your shoulders. You're pleasant to be around. If you're hardworking and you're not just like, you know, just. I work with a lot of people who they just watch other people struggling and like don't get in there and help them. You know what I mean? Just that basic show up and give a shit that you apply to any job and you're going to be okay. That is missing from a lot of the industry. So man, yeah, you come on over, and if you happen to know like what an XLR cable is called, that's helpful too, you know?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the cables. Dude, cables out of my fucking ears, dude. Like I'm working on trying to set up because my dream is, and we're going to manifest it. I'm taking this year of 2023 to focus on content and like music, research. But here's the deal, man. I got this epic, I love this board here. This is the Boss ROC. Yeah, dude, the ROC 505 MK2, brand new model that just came out last January. It was $1,000, very well spent. Yeah. And I want to busk all over the country. And so I'm working on how I'm going to set my live setup. So, dude, I probably will definitely be spending some time in Austin for something along those lines.
Dude, yeah. I mean, yeah, like however I can help, however I can shoe you in. Like if you, like I said, you know, I got the couch, you can crash here for a little bit. Like, dude, that'd be awesome. And also, you say you want to create and make content and stuff this year. Like if there's any collaboration sort of stuff we can do, this is super awesome, man. I'm enjoying reconnecting with you. And I think we
Dude,
should
me
totally make
too.
some stuff. And now that I know that
Yes.
you like you sent me some of your music that I checked out, like we should fucking do some music together too. This is your typical
Yes.
millennial grown men things like, bro, we're on a podcast talking about the music we're going to make together. I feel like there's women all around the world making fun of us in their flannels and their tights and their, you know, so typical. But yeah,
It's so typical. Love
yeah,
it.
we should, dude, I've been doing a lot of, I feel like the DJing side of things and like live performance, I'm sharpened on that, and I have like a lot of cool potential ideas on that, and that's, you know, something we can talk about too. But writing wise, man, like if you have any instrumentals or you need something that needs like spoken word, poetry, rap, like I'm getting pretty good at spitting these days. So I would love to do
Ooh.
just out of fun, man. That would be super fun to collaborate.
Dude, I'm supremely down. Fortunately, I think because the model of Logic that I have is a cracked version that I got when I bought this MacBook. I bought this MacBook Pro from somebody, just like fully worked it. They were like, it has Ableton, it has Logic, it has 3,000 gigabytes, you know, whatever. And I was like,
Amazing.
dude, fuck yeah, like give me that. And
Yeah.
but the thing is like the Logic Pro, like I've noticed when I share, I'm trying to send like the stems. It's like kind of hard for me. So I'm interested. We should at least try it. I'm not sure if you want to do like Google Drive or Dropbox or something, but
Okay.
I don't know. And how's the cross compatibility between stems on Logic to Ableton?
I think it's figure outable. I think that you do have to export it differently. I mean, it's not as easy as
Logic to Logic.
yeah,
Ableton to
it's
Ableton.
not as there is a process though. Like we are not the first gents to be in this situation. So I think we could do a little editing and figure it out. To be honest, I would love to try.
Me too. I would love, because that yet again is just like, hey, I've done that before. Like you got that, like I got this. Like let's. So,
Yeah.
dude. All right, cool. Well, I mean, I feel like we got into a lot of my history. Maybe next time we'll get into some of your journeys in history.
Yeah.
Because I want to know.
Yeah, man. I know. I wish honestly, if I didn't have to go to this gig, I would say this is going to be a 4-hour podcast. Let's keep going. Like I would love to do that, but I do have to. Yeah, I'm doing like some sort of. So this one is a lighting gig. I'm working for a lighting company. It's something for TikTok. No idea what it is. I just show up and I'll probably set up like some lights so people can take selfies and like it looks cool on camera. I don't know.
Dude, there's so many gigs. Like I did for a while what brand ambassador gigs.
Oh yeah.
Which is like a really great way to make money when you're just kind of like when you're just doing shit on your own, you know. And in Portland, living in Portland, where it was just like there was so many gigs. I just imagine Austin being the like the new tech hub and just a beautiful growing city. How many gigs there are, dude? Like to just there's so much work out there. There's got to be.
Yeah, it seems it's weird because it's like hard to. I feel like I haven't been shaking hands and like stumbling across as many opportunities as I thought I was. Like I thought I was, as soon as I got here, I was going to hit the ground running. But I also like wasn't super applying myself. I was kind of just like sending some Instagram messages and some emails and stuff like that. But it is a thing. Like once it's like you're on these job sites and like I said, you prove that you're hardworking and you're not like a total knucklehead and you're not like trying to escape to smoke a cigarette every 38 minutes. You know, like people at the end of the gig are like, "Hey, so you work in Austin often?" Like, you know, there's a handshake exchange that you seem to bump into, and it's been happening more and more for me lately as I've been, you know, doing the gig. So I think there is a few months of groundwork, but yeah, I think that all you got to do is just show up and work hard, meet people, shake hands, and you'll have the opportunities. I think that's really just the nature of the beast.
It's work. And it's like, do you want to work on work or do you want to work on yourself? Do you want how many jobs do you want to apply yourself to? Or do you want to just shut it all off and go to bed?
Yeah, I mean, it's I saw a YouTube video the other day and the title was, I didn't even watch the video. It was, I could go to sleep or I could create my magnum opus. And,
Oh my God, that is so
I'm like,
fucking, I can't,
dude,
dude, it's so true.
I struggle with that every night. I'm like,
Every night.
like, do I even deserve to go to sleep? Have I accomplished anything today? Like, it's just like, and sometimes you just put yourself on this pedestal of like what you should have done that day to accomplish like your wildest dreams, you know.
But I mean, it is true though, and it is good to have that contemplation, because it's like, as much as the self-care and the sleeping is good, it's like a lot of times the only time you're going to create that banger. Dude, one of the coolest songs I ever made was when there was some really annoying assholes in the living room partying all fucking night. I couldn't sleep because they were just partying and so I was just like, whatever. Grabbed it. I was up till 3 a.m. making these like sounds I'd never made before. And I was just like, maybe there is something to this really late night thing, because I just love sleep so much, but it takes that mental effort, that mental work to get up and get over ourselves,
How dare you think you get to choose all the time?
Dude, I love
sometimes
sleep.
You gotta catch it. Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. But sometimes that is something that every artist can relate to. Though, is sometimes when you catch one in the net, you seriously go like, oh, like this one's dope. Like you kind of understand right. Like sometimes you'll get like your first few lines in, or you kind of like get your first verse in, or whatever it is that you're writing, or you get your your drum pattern down, and you're like, okay, this is sick. This is really sick.
Yeah.
Like I gotta put my phone on do not disturb and like make sure I catch this, make sure that I'm listening, or I'm not gonna hear this all the way, because it'll float away. You can't just like it's not like, okay, well, my office hours are. It's like if you catch an idea, you don't get to just, cool, I caught that and I wrote the first line down. I'll open that up tomorrow morning. Like no.
No, you're not going to.
No, man. You gotta follow the coattails of it. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Love that penguin coat.
Yeah, bro. So, yeah, I would love to do this again. And then I can do less yammering, and you could ask me about my background and stuff too. But I do appreciate you allowing me to peel back some of your layers. I think you're such like not only just a fascinating person, but just like a sweet and wonderful person to be around. It's like something I always remember about our interactions before, and I think that anybody who knows you is probably in agreement with that. You're just a wonderful person to be around, so it's cool to kind of get to see behind the curtain of Roman and
Thanks,
learn
man.
a little bit about you, man.
Dude, yeah, I mean, you in my eyes growing up, you were you were cool as fuck, man. You had the sick van, one of the first tattoos of the crew, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then the sick job at the mall and the skate shop.
Yeah.
It's like I was just like, dude, Jake's got it all, man. I fucking love that guy.
Yeah, at 16, I got my van. It's got a sound system in it. I've got more than one job. I felt cool. I felt pretty cool. I wasn't that cool, but I felt pretty cool.
No, you were, man. You were, dude. Our friend group was very unique, interesting. I was so glad to like kind of become a part of that friend group when we went to Kelso. Oh man,
like, dude, like the cool people that we've met that like you want to. I think about that actually with now that I've been away from our hometown for a while, you get some cool retrospective, perceptions of like how you saw it when you were growing up and the things that you got to see being someone who's from that hometown. Like Austin, for example, you talk about Austin, you talk about these places. When I'm talking to someone who was born and raised here, who grew up here, and they, to get to middle school, they cut through this path through the woods, to go by this building. And like they have all these intricate visions and views of not only people, but like the town that you just can't get as not only a tourist, but even if you move there as an older person, And so, I don't know. I think that me trying to like understand Austin as an outsider and like try to get as much as I can about the essence of it, about the qualia of the place by stories and by people telling me about their experiences with them. You just can't get the whole thing from having that, it's different than having that lived experience. So like when you really look back at like, wow, our lived experience, like, dude, it really is a cool place that we grew up in. Like as easy as it is to maybe like have a view of people who haven't like been out of Cowlitz County, and maybe maybe it's a little more narrow than some places in some ways. But there's also like the way that some of these people see the world is just so cool. The way that some of these people have made me laugh from the core of my belly is just like unlike any other place. The situations that I've been able to be a part of in these friend groups and stuff, God, dude, I mean, yeah, just flashing your memory back to all the cool people we've met at parties or skate parks or after school or at the mall or all these places. I don't know, man. There's some cool ass people, and it's a pleasure to know cool ass people. That's for sure.
It is, and that's why it's just like we need to keep traveling, we need to keep going, we need to keep cruising, and it just never stop, man. You know, like we're out here doing it, and we never gonna stop doing it. We just gotta like keep meeting cool people, keep the love flowing and growing.
Yeah. Yeah, stop taking your report card. Stop saying this is who I am now and this is exactly who I am and I learned this little bit of history and I'll be this person forever. It's like, nope. Every single day, meet new people, explore new places of yourself and other people in other places of the world, and you never know who you're going to be on the other side of that day. You know?
Yes. Yeah, like that. A lot of things is like just allowing yourself to be open. It's like that thing we're talking about with like the late night. Like it's just be open to like whatever baseline you're going to put down, whatever key you decide to go, and be open to the fact that you might go out and have a terrible experience at the store, but right after that you might meet this like really cool person in the parking lot, or nothing happens and it's all fucking good, you know. But just knowing that you're open to it, and maybe telling yourself you're going to meet somebody and then forgetting that you said that in the beginning of the day, and then at the end of the day you're like, holy shit, I did meet somebody super fucking cool today. Like just open, man. It's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful, man. This has been great. You're fucking great.
You're great too, man. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. Will you make sure that everybody listening still knows where to find you, where to find your podcast, where to communicate with you, where to listen to your next podcast? When does it drop? Like everything that they can do to follow you from here on out.
Oh, thank you. I like a shameless plug. There are three podcasts. One is the baby, that's the stronghold, that's Rising from the Ashes. It's a history podcast. You guys have a bunch to look at for our past episodes, but to look forward, we are getting into serpent symbolism in the month of January with different authors, and then February and a few months after that will be ancient Ireland, and we're talking to authors and researchers about the ancient mysteries of Ireland and the truth about leprechauns and the truth about the Fae and the connections to Ireland and ancient Egypt and ancient India. And there's a huge mysterious rabbit hole there. So we're really looking forward to that. You guys should check out Moon Mysteries, is a podcast that I do with an astrologer, where we have only two episodes a month. One of the episodes we focus on like the moon cycles of that month. So what the new moon's going to be, you know, in Sagittarius, what it's going to be in the next sign. And then we each read articles that are either folklore about ancient deities of the moon or whatever, just like really fun articles questioning the mysteries of the moon. And then the other episode of the month is an interview based with like the authors. There's actually like so many different books that are literally called Mysteries of the Moon or Moon Mysteries. So that's fun. And then the other final show, which our most recent episode was on Austin, Texas, is called Esoteric America, where we dive into some of the deeper history of random towns and cities. And we invite people onto the show to tell us about their town. They don't have to be authors. They don't have to be researchers. We would actually prefer it if it's just normal people. Yeah. And they dig into the histories of their town and tell us about it.
That's so fun. I love this idea. It's such a cool idea.
Dude, I mean, if you want to do it, I'd love to have you on if you want to talk, because we're talking Austin all this month. So if you feel inclined to look up some weird things, here's the cool thing. There's no like whatever it is, dude, like whatever you find, you know how rabbit holes work on the internet. You just start going down it. You're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Yeah, no, maybe I'll check into stuff. I will say on your Rising from the Ashes podcast, the hair on the back of my neck tingles when you say you're focusing on like serpent related things. I have a lot of I study a lot about like Kundalini awakenings in these sorts of things. I'm actually fairly certain that I have had a Kundalini awakening a few years back ago. So I would love to talk about that. I have some books that I can send you actually. Yeah, I would love to. We could talk about that later, but yeah. So maybe throw me into that January mix of Serpent Talk. I would love
I'm
to.
super down. Let's plan on that actually. Let's plan on talking Kundalini spirit symbolism, serpent
Yes,
symbolism, dude. Like,
that's very
funny
related.
enough, last night we were looking up something and we ended up going down the rabbit hole of how snakes mate, how snakes
Okay.
have sex. And they do it by connecting their tails. There's a small opening, like the genitals of both the male and the female are like inside an opening. So when you see like the caduceus staff of Hermes, of
Yeah.
how like two snakes twisted around a staff, like that's what happens. And then they coil around each other and they
Ah.
tense up, and it's just like started making me think about a lot of things, like this strange like tendency we have to like choke each other during sex. Is similar to like how snakes coil up and wrap around each other and they make compression on each other when they're making love with each other.
Yeah, constriction of the breath and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I was like, I think we're touching on something that's outside of our human selves when we do that, because it's a
Yeah.
very, very big tendency that people love. Like a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
fucking love
Heat of the
that.
moment. Yeah, like even if you act like you don't love that stuff, heat of the moment. If it starts happening, it's like, yeah, what's up? Yeah,
Exactly,
I'm into
exactly.
that.
So it's
You
just
know.
like that's Kundalini, man. If we're just so I'd love to talk about it, dude. We could keep going forever, man.
I know. Yeah, it
We're
does
putting a
never
bow
end.
on it right here.
Wonderful. All right, Roman. Well, man, thank you so much. Yeah, everybody, please check out Roman's podcast. Are you active on social media? Are you pretty active on Facebook? Do you like people to follow you on there or anything? Or
Oh, so yeah, hit me up on Facebook. That's just Roman Merrell. But if you guys do the one social media I do a lot of is
Dookie?
Telegram. Telegram is a group messaging platform
Huh.
that's like it has the user friendly compatibility that Facebook and Instagram has. But it's like, so I'm in a group. I sent you this on Facebook Messenger while we were chatting. I'm in like a group of podcasts. There's like the one-on-one podcast, the Introverse podcast, us. Like there's Cheney and Project Cheney. Like there's a bunch of really cool podcasts, and we'll do group shows commonly. But we all have our own Telegram channels, and Telegram is awesome. I hope if you don't have Telegram, Jake, please get on it, dude. Like I'll join you to our RFTA group. We have like 200 people on there that's in a group chat, and like everybody's just sharing books, music, articles, all this stuff. So it's really
amazing
great.
and overwhelming at the same time. No,
That's why
I'm
I
just
have to
joking.
do the one.
I would love to. Yeah, please send it my way. I do actually have, I think, one friend. Maybe I do have the app Telegram. I have a friend who has like a small, like 15-person men's chat that he had invited me to be a part of, and I think that is on Telegram actually. So, but yeah, dude, definitely send me that, or I will check into that link that you had already sent me. So
Nice.
nice. All right. Well, hey, everybody listening. Love yourselves. If you haven't drank, a pretty good amount of water today, it's like, what are you doing? Get it together. Get your life together. Get between the lines. Like, sober up, man. Drink some water. Stretch. Love yourself. Yeah. What else? Like, dance and play with your dog. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you're never gonna arrive
breathe.
anywhere. So play with your dog. Put your phone away and love yourself. All right, Roman, man. I'll talk to you soon, buddy. It's so much love. I hope you have a good rest of your day, buddy.
You too, brother. Thanks. Thank you for the chat, brother. Much
Yeah,
love.
yeah. We'll be in touch soon, man. Bye.
What age do we learn to
Bye.
have better conversations with ourselves?
Knowledge is power.